I do not believe that any exorcism, any ritual of a religious nature, or anyone could ever clear that home of the very negative spirits which are involved in it.
I almost wanted to say it was commonplace to see things move on their own.
Tarot reading.
The rocket ship.
It's moving! It's moving!
Dude, I swear to God, I thought one of you guys were in here.
Dude.
What do you think of Matt? All right, we are live, and I'm kind of waiting for people to fill in. This is a very odd time for me to actually go live. So, and also YouTube has been acting up as well. So, anyways, let's see. Let me go through here, get something out here real quick, and all right. So, how have you been, sir?
I have been I'm tired, exhausted. I've been all of the above since we moved out here to New Mexico. I'm not used to this, you know, and Mexico and New Mexico is a different beast than Georgia. The crime here is high and stuff, and we're not used to that, you know. So I can't wait for 2 more years until I retire and I can move back home. So I've been good, yeah, but but just ready to go back home.
Right. So, Air Force, correct?
Yes. I've been in the Air Force for 18, well, going on 18 years, and it's getting to the point to where now I can start planning on my retirement, you know, and proceed from there.
Awesome. That 2 years is going to go by quick.
Yes, I hope it does. I hope I can blink and it's gone. I am exhausted mentally, physically, and I'm ready to start another career that is a little bit more low key than what I have been doing.
Right. Oh, hey Jennifer. Hey Venom. Now let's see. There's more people here. Just nobody's commenting at the moment. So,
Cool.
So you and I first met in Alabama at a Bigfoot convention, which is kind of weird for us because we're paranormal investigators, but at the same time, they kind of throw Bigfoot. A lot of people do throw Bigfoot in that paranormal category. Let's see. Hey, Hinsdale girl. So that was interesting.
Yes, it was. You know, that's the first. You know, I have been speaking. Prior to that, I have been speaking at paranormal conventions, but that was the first time I've ever been to a Bigfoot convention. You know, so but I'm like you. You know, you have to throw Bigfoot in there with, you know, ghostly stuff, with the whole realm of the paranormal. Let's put it that way. So yeah.
Right. Hey, Dory. So I mean, it was interesting. It was fun, and I'm glad I went. I went there to. I didn't know you at the time, but I went. I took that really long drive to support Alex and Miranda, Ghost Biker, and then I had the pleasure of meeting you, and we had although it was kind of short, we still had a cool conversation.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. You know what? Fun. That whole convention was a blessing, really. You know, I went in there. I didn't know anybody, and I met Miranda, and I met you, and I met Alex. You know, so you know, put push come to shove, that was a great time, and I was able to meet some really good people.
No, it was really fun.
Yeah.
And I definitely enjoyed it. And I got to watch quite a bit of your of what's what I'm looking for. Your, do I want to call it a lecture or just speaking engagement? But
just presentation.
presentation, that's actually the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And it was pretty wild.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I
Kind of freaky.
Yeah, it was. I like to speak. My whole presentation is really scheduled for about an hour speak. But by the time I got up, I was the last one. And I know people was really, really tired. I was looking out in the crowd, and their eyes were so heavy. So I condensed it down to about 30 minutes. I just wanted to hit the the meat and potatoes. But the ending, I showed a video of a man, and it looked like he was under demonic possession. He showed every symptom, everything you would see in a possession. However, he wasn't possessed. He was under a drug-induced psychosis. So I showed that video, and it was crazy. After the presentation, I had so many people come up and just start talking about this video, and I had it was weird. I only spoke for 30 minutes, and then it seemed like everybody in God's green earth just got up and just started asking questions. So I'm under that mentality. If I do a presentation and afterwards I have people coming and asking questions, I think it was fairly good.
No, it was interesting and a little creepy at the same time.
Yeah.
Which was cool. That's something that I don't get to see all the time. I've heard other speakers who are demonologists or deal within the darker side of paranormal. Most of them, they don't show too much. They talk, but seeing it is very, very different. I mean,
seeing is kind of believing.
Right.
People can talk about this all they want, even just the ghostly side of things, the Bigfoot side of things, and all of this.
Right.
People can talk, but you just need something more to kind of thrust in there and back it up.
Right.
And that's what I tried. I try not to reveal too much information, but I think I did a good job with revealing just enough to leave people asking questions.
Right. All right. I'm going to go to chat here real quick. Hey, Frank. Let's see. Hey, Ryan and John. What's up, guys? Well, since we now have more people in here, how did you get started? And how did you start? And then basically also your credentials as to being a demonologist. And I'll go ahead and throw this out there too, all in one. What does it take to become a demonologist? Because I see a lot of people throw out there, "Oh, I'm a demonologist." Well, what's your credentials?
Yeah.
And it's very weak.
Yeah. It's to throw around the world the word demonologist. I have seen people in the past 10 years, read a book and then, I'm a demonologist, and then they go into cases and they mean well, but they're actually making things worse because they don't know how to properly investigate and properly diagnose the problem. Because what happens is the problem or what looks like the problem will be right there in front of your face, but you got to dig a little bit more to see what is the root cause of things. So how did I get started? Wow. Back in 2000, it's been a while. I was always into the paranormal field. From my days of being young and watching Unsolved Mysteries, I never had that ghostly experience that just changed my life. I love Unsolved Mysteries. From that, from Robert Stack's voice, he was creepy. Okay.
We're dating ourselves. We are literally saying, we're kind of old.
Yeah. So from there, it got me interested in the unsolved things. The things that are not normal. The paranormal. UFOs, Bigfoot, ghostly stuff, and all of the above. So in 2000, I decided to take it a little bit further, and started researching paranormal investigations and stuff. So me and a friend of mine started a team called the Georgia Ghost Hunters, and that was around the time the Ghost Hunters was first coming of age. You're now seeing this on the live TV. On the media. So we liked how their investigation skills was, all the protocols. So we kind of did the same thing, and at the time, did we know what we were doing? I don't think so. Yeah, you learn as you go. So we just started, and we was having a lot of cases like coming up, and finally it got to the point. Oh, it was 2000, maybe 5-ish time frame, 2006-ish. Um, um, I felt that draw to study the religious demonology side of things, and during that time, I didn't want to it's because I knew the dangers, but still that drawing was intense. So I told myself I'm not just gonna read a book and know what to do. I've got to have somebody to teach me. I kind of use my common sense in this. So the first person I reached out to was Keith Johnson. Keith is a really dear friend of mine, and he kind of set the foundations. And then I met a friend of mine by the name of Dave Constantine, and he agreed to teach me. And by my knowledge, I'm the only one that he's ever taught. And really dear friend of mine. He was one of only one of only a handful of people that was ever formally trained by Ed Warren. So, God kind of aligned that into a good little vacuum here, and blessed me with someone that can teach me the right, or bless me with two people that can teach me the right ways of doing things, instead of saying, "Oh, I read a book. Yeah, I'm a demonologist." That ain't how it works. You have to be trained. You have to be formally trained by either a religious demonologist, or by your bishop, or by your exorcist. And that way you have that knowledge, you have that training, you have that know-how. If you're in a situation to where if you go one or two ways, you got to be able to discern what way to go. And then plus each case is handled differently. You don't have a set protocol to handle the case. I like, when I go into a case, first thing I like to do is just get to know the people. You know, build a good rapport, learn what kind of makes them tick. Kind of learn who they are. So when something abnormal comes about, it's not them. So there's a lot of psychology that actually goes into this. But with my training as a military police officer, I am trained in the art of of the how can I put it, of the interrogation, or of the interview. I know how to talk with people, because my Southern hospitality, of course. I don't know, but I know how to talk to people, and they don't know I'm getting information out of them, in which I am getting the information like that I need. So, it's one of those things, when if you are a legitimate like demonologist, you have to be trained. Period. You have to have a mentor. If not, you're going to go into situations not with the proper training, and you are going to make things worse. Like I told you before, in the past 10 or so years, I've seen so many people come out. I'm a demonologist. I'm this and I'm that. And I give you a really good example. I'm not going to name his name, because he's well known in the paranormal field. However, about 8 years ago, he contacted me on a case that he was doing, and I gave him some pointers what you can try or stuff. Well, I guess it worked because now this person is claiming, or a month later, this person claimed to be a demonologist, and he's on TV. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but people like that are dangerous.
Right, right. We got some good questions here. Here's the girl asked, "How many times have you used demonology?"
What, like as in so what does she mean by demonology? As in
Um,
the context that I know it as, or a different context?
um, I'm going to assume she means how many cases
Oh,
that you've gone to where you've had to use those skills.
so what makes me different than other people is that that's all I handle is dark and demonic cases. So I don't go out and investigate Casper the Friendly Ghost. I am the one that investigators call when there is something that they see as negative there. So to answer your question, every single one of my cases is dark, and I have to be able to discern what is what. So yeah, every one of my cases are possibly that demonic case.
Right. And then Dory says, "I hear the word demon tossed around a lot. How rare is it to actually come in contact with a demon or demonic possession?"
With either of that, it's rare. Demonic possession is the rarest of all of the forms of a demonic hauntings. You have your infestation, you have your oppression, you have your obsession, and then you have your possession. So usually, when I come onto a case, usually it's either in the infestation stage or going into the oppression stage. There, I don't need to call in the priest. If the person is going with my suggestions, then we can proceed on to do what we call a deliverance session. A deliverance session is not an exorcism. It's where we go with the petitions to God and to Jesus to free this person from their affliction. So yeah.
All right. And let's see. You guys are asking some good questions. Wow. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Let's see. Is it true the demon has to name itself during an exorcism? And if so, why?
Yes. The exorcist will at some point during the exorcism ask for the name. The reason why is when once it finally gives up its name, then that person, the priest, the exorcist, now has authority over the demon. So they try to keep that name hidden. They try to keep their true name hidden because just as soon as you find out the name, then you can call it by the name, and you can by the power of God force this thing out.
Right. Let's see. Hey, Spirit Stalker 50. Um, how do you determine if let me try that again. I almost butchered that one. All right. How do you determine if you exercise the person, uh, or I think that's or not? I believe that's what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or
So what
land.
determines
My bad.
so basically what determines if somebody is possessed? Is that what they're asking?
Let me go back here. How do you determine if you exercised the person or the land? Like I
Okay.
believe if it was actually successful.
Okay. So you well, whenever I'm interviewing people, we first we got to differentiate if it's the land, the house, or the person. I ask one simple question, and I'll ask the person, you know, has this activity happen every place you go? Okay. If the answer is yes, then there's a high likely of a chance that the person is being afflicted and not the land or the house. Now, if you talk to the person and this is the first time it's ever happened, then you got to go and see if it's really the person or the land. But usually, you can put one and two together. And but if I'm confused though, there is some special ways that I can tell if the person is actually oppressed, or if it's the land or the home. One thing I like to do, and this is the telltale sign for me: quick, easy, and simple. When I first come onto the case, after I talk to the person for the initial contact, I will send them set prayers. Okay. If the person has something attached to them, they will have a reaction. If they don't, then it's the home or the property, and from there, even that prayer alone, will actually, build them up spiritually to be able to withstand what is about to happen. So even if they're oppressed, they will start the prayer, and something will happen to them. But I tell them, keep doing it, don't let it stop you. And once they get to a place to where they can say this prayer without stop, without any reactions, then I know spiritually they're ready for a deliverance session.
Awesome. Tiptoe asks, does a Catholic exorcism differ from a non-Catholic?
Yes, because they have the rite of exorcism. I believe what this person's trying to ask is if it's different than a Protestant exorcism. Yes. Because number one, the Catholic faith, you're walking into that situation within apostolic succession or apostolic authority. When the exorcists come on like to the scene, number one, people got to understand that he's specially trained for this. Okay, he's actually been through specific training to be an exorcist, and number two, he was handpicked by his bishop because he was a very, very pious man. So that person is already spiritually ready for this, and they're acting within apostolic authority. Now, when you go to the Protestant side of things, it's different. You don't know what type of Protestant you're going to be getting. Is it the tongue speaking Protestant? Is it the Baptist Protestant? They have different ways of doing things. But within the one thing that I've seen within the Protestant realm here is that some of them have what they call the deliverance ministry. They call it deliverance. Us Catholics, we differentiate what is a deliverance and what is an exorcism. Okay. But within the Protestant faith, they have deliverances. So you will see a lot of Protestants who claim to be demonologists, but it's something about that Catholic faith, that they have more punch to it, but that's just me, but that's the difference of when you're dealing with the Protestant side of things and the Catholic side of things.
I already know the answer to this one. What if a person doesn't want to be exorcised?
Then I don't care if Jesus Christ himself, if the Pope comes down, any one of those, if they're here, it won't work because the person doesn't want it done.
Right. Yeah, I knew the answer to that one. Yeah, it's free will.
Yeah, free will. You're exactly right. Free will plays a lot of this. When you look at how these things have invitations like into people's lives, these things don't just run up on you, attached to you. There has to be some form of invitation. Number one, there could be a knowing or unknowing like invitation. The use of Ouija boards, the practice of seances, and all that stuff, and then there will be something called generational curses, meaning you were born into that situation. And then the third one is a what is done to you. That's all I'm going to say. I think you know what I'm getting to, though. When things are forcefully done to you, maybe satanic ritual abuse, stuff like that, then that's another way for things to get attached to you and hold on to you. And these things won't act up just immediately. I had a case where the lady was 19 years old, and these things will come in the guise of a dead relative. She was driving down the road. She was 19 years old, and then her dead aunt appeared to her on her passenger side of her car, and she opened up a dialogue. That was the invitation for it to latch on. That was the invitation. And then it waited until she was 62 years old. Okay. These things can play off your emotions. These things know when you're weak and what you're more susceptible to. Her
Right.
father-in-law was her father figure. She never had a father. Her father basically was absent from her life. So what happened was her father-in-law passed away. Okay, and she started getting sad and depressed. Then they moved into his house. Okay, well, it started with something as simple as plantar fasciitis. Okay, and it looked like just medical problems, But what was odd about this whole situation is that her husband is a retired Navy SEAL. Okay, this man uses his common sense. This man, he got his head on his shoulders. And he wrote me an email, and that was the first email that I've ever read, asking for help that I didn't have any more questions about. It was very thorough. I looked for, is there changes within the family pattern? And with this one, it was. They were always outgoing people, always traveling. But since they moved into his father's home, they've been secluded. And that's one thing that the demonic does, is likes to isolate and seclude you. I saw the pattern, and then I started going back over all of the symptoms that she was having. They wasn't having these manifestations. Hers looked like medical problems. So the one thing that caught me off guard, though, or it struck me as odd, this is the one thing that let me know that I think we're dealing with something that is on the demonic side of things, is that she has thresh of the mouth. And if anybody is aware of what thresh is, if some people can take it if they're on antibiotics. Some people can get it like babies get it when they're taking their formula. If you're having chemotherapy, stuff like that, really invasive things, okay, will cause this thresh of the mouth, and she had this, and so I had to call her back up. I'm like, have you ever been so sick to where you had to take antibiotics? And she said no. I'm like, okay. Have you ever been so sick to where you had to take chemotherapy? Have you ever had cancer? And she said no. Then I asked, did your father-in-law have cancer? She said yes. So then I started going back over him, his stuff, because he had a lot of medical problems too. And lo and behold, when they started telling me what was his medical problems, it was hers, like to the T. About in the same exact order too. This was odd to me, and so we went down and assessed it, and we found how this thing entered or the invitation, and it was as simple as talking to what she thought was the ghost of her dead relative.
Whoa. Ryan asks, "What is your most memorable case?"
Ah, I've had a lot. There was one I did in Florida, and I never forget this. We was asked by another paranormal team to come down and assess what was going on, and I accepted, and I started talking to the client just almost immediately, and going throughout her whole life story, and one thing that was odd to me is that her she never had a father figure. Her biological father was not in the scene, and but she did have a stepfather, and how can I put this to where we can still be working tomorrow? Let's just say he allowed his friends to do some stuff. Okay. And
We'll let the
that
chat
came,
use their imagination with that one.
yeah, yeah. So it was very unfortunate that her and her sister had to go through that. And then she got hooked on drugs, meth, stuff like that, But then she let her kid's father come over one Thanksgiving, and what sparked all of this, is that after he left, she went to take a shower, and lo and behold, well, it was like a couple hours after he left, she started getting slashed, and what I mean by slashed is it was horrific. It looked like those scratches was done by a blowtorch. It
Ooh.
was disgusting, So that's when we were called in, But if you put two and two together, I did some research on his background as well, and he was living with his aunt who was practiced Satanism. Okay, so then I asked her, after he left, did you notice anything missing? And she said, yeah, she saw that one of her top drawers was open, and one of her favorite shirts was gone. I'm like, I know exactly what happened. He put a curse on her, and we was able to isolate what happened. We was able to isolate the moment it got attached to her and what he did to her, by that curse. And I tell you, that was the longest deliverance session I have ever been a part of. It was 12 to 14 hours. And what is crazy about all this is when we walked in, she was sweeping up, looked like a lot of mess, and her mother told me that she is a neat freak, but the house wasn't in the tidy category, and just as soon as
Right.
we walked in, she went from weighing about 140 pounds to about 87 pounds. Okay. When we walked in, she looked like death. Her eyes were sunken in, and we asked what happened to the house. And she said right before we came over, things just started flying all over the place. It was like a tornado came in and just started throwing everything. So we helped her tie it up, and then we sat down. And from the moment that we sat down till the end, she don't remember nothing. And I'm glad she don't, because what was manifesting through her was not her at all. This thing was trying to attack me, but we kind of had to restrain her just a little bit, her mother was there with us too, watching what was happening, and at the moment that the expulsion happened, we had to do the Saint Michael prayer. And just as soon as we did the Saint Michael prayer, that's when that clash started to happen, and that's when we saw that it, you know, the thing that was attached to her was actually kind of losing the fight, and and she did what I call a reset. Okay, just as soon if something is really really deep rooted, attached to that person and deep rooted, just as soon as it comes out and it's gone, their eyes will reset, will kind of roll back into the back of the head, and their head will kind of go backwards, and then they will come back forward, and then they're themselves again, right? That happened, but when her head went back, she stopped breathing. Okay.
Oh,
So I am trained in given that basic CPR, that basic combat lifesaver stuff. Okay, and we're taught that if the person's not breathing but still has a really strong pulse, they're going to be okay. And in this situation, her mama was freaking out. I got to feel her pulse, and her pulse was nice and strong. So within about 5 seconds after I checked her pulse, she opened up her eyes and she started breathing. And she looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm hungry." Okay, cool. And then she said, "I feel clean." And then she started crying, and and said, "You don't know, it's been about 20 years since I have felt clean." I'm like, "Good for you." Throughout all the time, she was vomiting up some white frothy foam. She was also vomiting up what looked like coffee grounds, and that's normal when you're dealing with this. No, but also, she also asked within that context, after she said that, well, before she said that she feels clean, she said, "So when we going to get started?" She don't remember that 12 hours. So it was strange, man. I'm like, it was strange. I still have those pictures of her gouges, and I think I showed that in my presentation there at Abnormal, Alabama. That was the case where you see all these deep scratches and gouges. She still has scars, like to this day, from how bad those gouges were.
whew. Jeez. Dory asks, "What if you're not Christian? Does it make a difference in the case?" Keep in mind, guys, opinions, okay?
Yeah. So it's all good. I don't turn anybody away. Let's put it that way. Okay. I know the ins and outs of all the major religions and stuff. So I like to try my best to work in those confines. But I'm also that person to where if I know I can't work with that person inside those confounds, I will find someone who is of that faith and that religion so they can help that person too.
Tiptoe asks, "How and why do demons attach to some and not others?" I love that question. I have my own opinion on it, and I think we're on the same page with that.
Yeah, I think I kind of referenced it earlier. It's things you've done, will knowingly or unknowingly, things that have been done to you, and kind of what you're born into. I have done some research, and we don't want this show to come off the air. So I know Facebook, don't like a lot of things. So I'll just keep it short and sweet. Okay. Unfortunately, there are some things that I've caught wind of that are within that generational curse thing. I think I mentioned it earlier, when I was talking about the worst case that we worked on, how those girls went through some things that they shouldn't go through, so things were done to them that shouldn't have been done, and I've been keeping some research, and if I'm dealing with one of those cases, okay, I always ask, has your mother or father experienced this as well, and what is shocking is that about 90% will say yes. So it's kind of like a generational trail, but it can be stopped just as soon as we address the issue. So that's what I've been keeping track with, But there are some things, some people that kind of draw these things into, and they don't mean to. If you are
Right.
going on you have to know, if you're a paranormal investigator, okay, you you kind of have to know just a little bit of what you're looking for, especially if you see signs that this might be, something demonic or something dark. If you're not ready for that, then like don't go. Some people can be emotionally and spiritually and sometimes physically weak, and that'll draw some things in too. So there are some things, some ways that these things are attached to people. But yeah.
Spirit Stalker asks, "How do you feel about the Ouija board, or well, Ouija
I,
board sessions?"
mm, I, some of my worst cases have been because of Ouija boards. What people don't realize, it's not the board that's the problem. Okay, it's the human agent. Okay, so we can unknowingly open ourselves up to these demonic forces, especially if we try to carry on dialogue. These things are tricky. If you're doing a Ouija board session, you don't know what you're talking to. You don't know if you're talking to Casper the Friendly Ghost, or if you're talking to Satan himself that claims to be Casper
Right.
the Friendly Ghost. There is no proper way to use an Ouija board. Okay. But then again, like I said, it's the human agent too. I have handled some cases where the digital audio was like an Ouija board. Some people can get so obsessed with taking EVPs to where they don't know it, but they're interacting with something that is negative. So if it's used improperly, also the digital audio or taking EVPs can also become like a form of an Ouija board. So yeah, I don't like the Ouija board at all.
Right. One of the things they do say, like, now, yes, I have messed with the Ouija board. I haven't had anything terrible happen. I don't put a whole lot of credence into them. But at the same time, it's like when people say, "Ooh, no, the Ouija board," but digital recorder all day long. So it's kind of like, what's the difference?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The key thing to this, the key term is human agent. It's not the board that's the problem; it's the human agent. Yeah.
Right. Let's see. Hey Crow, what's up? Hey Selena, what's up? Matt, what's up? Let's see. Tiptoe asks, can the demon you exorcised return to the same person, or is the demon gone for good?
It can return. When we leave, it can return after an exorcism and after a deliverance. Okay. Excuse me. So these things will try to find a way to come back. Okay. Um, Good example, the case that I mentioned earlier in Florida. Okay. This is crazy. Okay. So after we left, this thing was gone. Okay. And the following week, she called me and 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 said, something just happened, and I need your take on it. All right, cool. So she said she come home from work, and she went to her house, and her kids were staying with grandma. So she had no kids at home like for that night. or for the weekend. And then all of a sudden she walked in, and there was a little girl playing in her living room. And this little girl was wearing what looked like a sackcloth dress, and she had soot kind of around her face and eyes. And she thought this was a real girl. And she was asking her, honey, what's wrong? Where's your mother and father? And she said that her mother and father died in the fire, and her being a mother, she's like, oh my gosh, I got to show this little girl some love, So she actually picked the little girl up, okay, put her on the counter, okay, and as she's calling 911, or calling the cops, she's wiping the soot off of her face, and then she turned around to pick something up, and then she turned back around. The little girl has vanished. Okay, she's to this day still have that napkin with the soot on it. Okay,
Wow.
now she called me and said, and she told me what happened. I said, honey, look, unfortunately, this was this demonic force trying to come back in the guise of a little girl. It knows your motherly instincts. Your weakness is children. I said, but if this happens again, politely tell it, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave. So the next day, she come home from work. There's a little girl again, and at this time the client is torn. She sees this little girl and she starts crying, and she said, honey, in the name of Jesus Christ, leave. And the little girl stood up and said, as you wish. And then she vanished, never to come back again.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
absolutely nuts.
Yeah. A lot of times too, specifically with the structure itself, if a demonic entity is tossed out and it comes back, when it comes back, it's coming back far more powerful
Yes.
and far more upset.
And it's bringing more friends with it.
And
That's
it
why
makes it
when
harder.
we leave, that's why when we leave, we like to do what we call follow-up care. Okay, somebody who is properly trained in handling these type of cases know all about follow-up care. I am on the phone with them almost twice, 3 times a week. How you doing? How's your spiritual life? There's some things you got to start practicing and put into place so you can keep these things away. And that's what we do. We like to do the follow-up care, because if you don't do the follow-up care, in return shows that, number one, you don't care about that person, period. You just wanted to see the stuff happen. You're leaving that person in a far more worse position than you did when you came there. My motto is this: I like to leave the client and the family at least in the same position as I found them. And I know that sounds weird, but I will get clients that doesn't want to do what I suggest. And at that point, I have to drop the case and move on to another one. I can't waste my time with people that just don't want the help. They claim to do, but in reality, they don't. So that's why I said I like to leave them in basically in the same situation that I found them. I don't want to make it worse. When I come into the home, I'm not there to stir things up. I'm there to nonchalantly and peacefully gather what I need to know what is what. So that's why that's my motto.
Wow, you guys are asking so many questions. I can't keep up. All right. So John asks, what makes some numb to demons / spirits compared to others in a household?
Wow, that's a good question. Some people just don't believe in this stuff. I have come up on the cases where there are stuff happening right there. You can see it with your visual eyes, but the person just don't want to see it. You know, that you know that in those cases, they personally will not witness nothing. They will not see nothing because they don't want to. You know, now there will be some cases where the person um, knows things are happening. You know, you see your spouse or your friend or your kids, you know, being tormented, but you won't see it. You won't experience it, and it's hard for that person to believe the other person of what's going on. You know, they're being told some things. It's funny, you know. Some people can see these things and some don't. You know, but I don't think it's that cut and dry. What I think is that when these demonic forces come into cases, okay, they want to separate the family dynamic. You know, a family is stronger together than they are apart. That's a proven fact. You know,
Right.
so I've seen a lot of my cases where the one spouse will be terrorized, will be afflicted by all of these onslaughts. You know, but then the other spouse won't believe them. Why? Because they don't see it, they don't hear it, they don't see it happening to the spouse. I believe that they can choose who see them and who don't, and in that situation, all they're trying to do is separate the family dynamic. Okay. Now I've had cases where one spouse is being afflicted, the other spouse is not, and this spouse who hasn't seen or witnessed or felt anything, you know, this is causing them to go through a divorce or permanent split. Just as soon as it's on that verge, then I've known that the spouse that had been seeing these things, that hasn't been afflicted, now it's happening to them too. Why? Because that family dynamic has now split, and now both people are in a worse situation than like what they were. So yeah.
Right. One of the things that I've noticed, again, I'm not a demonologist, but some of the cases I've done and learned from others is that when something demonic enters a family's life, the chances of divorce are like 90-95%. The damage is
You're
already
right.
done.
You're right.
And I had actually interviewed Edwin and Marcia Becker. Not sure if you're familiar with them or not.
Yeah.
They're the ones who, okay. He was talking about, what was going on with them. And yeah, everything he was telling me, I'm like, yeah, this is, yeah, that's dark. That's freaking demonic. And I had said, I'm surprised you guys are still together. And I don't think he understood what I was saying. Years later, guess what? They're in their 60s and 70s. Yeah, split at like 70 years old.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
it's strange, you know. Whenever once I come into a case, you know, my first thing is let's look at this family dynamic, okay, and let's see how bad the split is, you know, and if it's really bad, I like to try to bring the clergy in to have some, some therapy, some discussions. You know, I am all about first. You know, uh, I've had some cases that go on for years and years, and it's because I want them to go through that counseling. You know, I want that family unit to be brought back together, because if it's not, then the success rate for this will be very, very slim. You know, because at the end of the day, let's say we do the case, and let's say the entity was separated from the person being inflicted. Okay, but if that spouse decides after that the divorce or to leave, well, then that's leaving that other person wide open again for this demonic force to latch on again. So the family dynamic is everything, so that's what I really like to hone in on.
Right. Tiptoe asks, are mental health issues a pattern you see? For example, depression.
So depression can be tricky, psychological matters can be tricky. If I go into a case and after talking with the client, I know when I lived in Georgia, I had a psychologist like on my team. We didn't introduce this person as a psychologist. I just introduced this person as the investigator, as one of my investigators. Because if they don't know that the person is a psychologist, I think they'll be more open and honest, really. But I would always bring her in, and after we talked with the person, that she would be with me with the interviews, and I look out and say, "Hey, what's your opinion?" And sometimes she'll say they need therapy, or sometimes she will say, "No, there's no psychological issues there." So that has actually helped a lot. I remember I had a case in Trying, Georgia. Really, it was about 3 hours away from where I lived in Georgia, and this mother, she was in her 50s, and she was claiming her daughter, who's about roughly mid-20s, is living with her. She has 2 kids, and they were living with her, and she claims up and down that her daughter is possessed. And I asked her, why do you think this? And she told me, about some of the times where she would go and defecate in her mother's room right under the picture of Jesus. She would hold her mother down and do some really awful things to her. She would go into these fits that resemble a lot like demonic possession or maybe psychological issues. So we went there, and I've got a special trick like that I do. I can tell somebody is possessed or oppressed just like that. And she didn't know I was doing that, and I shook her hand, and I had something on my hand, and if it was really something spiritual, she would have flipped out. And no, there is no reaction. But she does tell me, don't let me near my kids because I'm afraid I might hurt them. I'm like, okay. But she doesn't know that the person I have beside me is a psychologist. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm taking mental notes. She's carrying me throughout the house. Then we get to her room. I'm like, why is all of your windows going outside busted out? They're all shattered. Okay. She's like, well, I got mad at my kids one day, and instead of hurting them, I busted out my windows. I'm okay, cool. So we finally got to the place where we sat down to talk to her. And whenever I ask specific questions, I already know the answers. But I want to know what they tell me. So we're going through the whole interview, and I do pick out some things that might be things that cause something that may have attached to her. But then I ask her one simple question at the end. I'm like, do you have any dependency problems now or in the past? Meaning, substance abuse. Any drugs, alcohol, you name it. And she said no, absolutely not. She was adamant. No, I've not done this. And I looked at her and I'm like, are you sure? She's like, well, last night I did go to my friend's house and hit some meth because I was worried about this. Bye, we're done here. So she lied to me. She didn't tell me the whole truth. And I'm kind of getting this feeling that she's using a local legend that is close to her house as a way to say that this is the reason why. A
Lame.
local, yeah, Corpsewood Manor. You know, so there's a old wise tale that the Corpsewood Manor, there were some people practicing Satanism there. It burned down, and now there's demons all over the place there, right? Corpsewood Manor was a big house. It did burn down, but just the remains are there, you know. But the real story is that back in the early '90s, there was two gay men that lived there. Okay, and back then the townsfolk didn't like that, you know, so they went in and killed them and burned down the house.
Jeez.
Oh, that aggravates the crap out of me. You know, don't. There was no sense. There was no reason why you should kill somebody. Period. No ifs, ands, but especially because of that. You know, people are
Right.
people. You know, so looking into this, I kind of feeling that she's using this as a way to say, I got possessed there. No, you didn't. So we talked to her mother. I point blank told her, look, she has a dependency problem. You know, even the psychologist who was with us is an expert in dependency problems too. And she was telling the lady, look, I am a psychologist. What's happening here, she is using drugs and alcohol, and you're not believing her. No, you know, and here's what needs to happen. She needs to go through some type of rehabilitation. Okay. My standard operating procedures when I'm dealing with someone who is dealing with dependency problems, but if I feel that there's a possibility that they're dealing with something malevolent too, you know, I want them to go through rehab first for at least 6 months. That way I see that they are they have made up their mind, they're wanting help, you know. Then once they get clean, then we can address the situation, you know. So we told her mother that here's what needs to happen, you know, or if you don't want to do this, if you've had enough, you know, tell her that she's got to leave the house, you know. But she's hurting her mother like physically, in ways that I can't describe here on the air, you know. So we told her, you know, this is what needs to happen. You know, really, she needs to be away from her kids. Why? Because there's twice that she told us that she wants to hurt her kids. Period. You know, when I'm hearing this, I am feeling okay. Now I'm shifting my mind frame from the paranormal stuff. Now the health and welfare of the kids is up at the is really important. So we told her, you know, what the safety of your grandkids actually needs to come, you know, to high importance here, you know. And so whatever happened there, I don't know. You know, we were never called to come back, you know, but we do have a psychologist. Psychological problems can look a lot like demonic possession, can look like a lot of demonic activity, period. But you got to be able to differentiate, you know, and that's actually hard. But I am smart enough to know that I can't really differentiate that a lot of the time. So I bring in somebody who can.
Right. Geez, so many questions. and we said we were going to go for an hour. Do you want to continue to
What time is it now?
It is 9:05 my time right now.
Okay,
It's
so
up
it's
to you.
7:05 my time. So how about this? I know I got to get to bed early,
Right.
unfortunately, you know, but
Right.
hey, I can come on at a different time and we can continue this. Anytime you need me to come on, all you got to do is
Absolutely. Sorry guys, we couldn't get to all the questions. Man, that was great. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, man. It is always good to talk to you and chit chat and speak about this stuff, you know.
Right. Yeah, awesome. So I'll go ahead. I'll let you go, and
All right.
I'll stay on for a little while longer and
All
just
right.
hang out with everybody.
Cool.
Thank you.
And just let me know when you want me to come back, and I'm fair game.
Absolutely.
And maybe maybe if I come on a different time, maybe you can bring Miranda on like at the same time, and we can have a big reunion.
Yeah, absolutely. We just may do that.
Yep.
We
Sounds
will
fun to
definitely
me.
do that. Yeah,
Yep.
we'll do that. All right. Thanks again, man. Have a good night.
Yes, sir. God bless you. Okay.
All right. God bless you too. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
All right, guys. That was freaking awesome. And wow, you guys were hammering away on those questions. Hinsel Girl, I believe he has been physically and mentally attacked as well. But that's something that he should actually talk about. Yeah, I try to get through all those questions, guys. But wow, that was awesome. And you guys, man, I'll tell you what, you guys asked a lot of good questions. Thank you. You guys may help make this very interesting. Whew. And no, Leon, he's a cool guy, and I should probably talk to him a lot more often. No, man, I wasn't ignoring you. I was trying to be fair and just go through every question as they were asked. So yeah, there's quite a few questions that I was unable to get to. So, oh Lord. Yeah, that was cool. I definitely enjoyed that. And hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And we'll definitely get him back on here soon. Because he's very interesting, that's for sure. So, but anyhow, guys, wow. Let's see. Just kind of reading through some things. Invite me on now. Yeah, he will definitely come back. I just need to it was short notice, and that's on me. We'll get him back, and we'll bring Miranda back on, and we'll see if Chris wants to come back on too. So, but yeah, Matt, I'm not going to stay on much longer, so there's no point in bringing anybody else back on. Let's see, maybe tomorrow night I'll live stream for a little while. Thank you, Selena. And again, guys, thank you. Those were some really good questions. And again, you guys help make it interesting, that's for sure. So, let's see. Oh yeah, there's a couple of other people I want to get on here too, and I think you guys will be very interested in them as well. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Bayou, he's going to come on at some point. I got to get with him and find out when is a good time, for him as well. He's a busy guy. So, oh. New conversation though. He sparked some things. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, guys. I'm gonna end it. Maybe I'll live stream tonight. Maybe, but I'll live stream for a little while tomorrow too. For you guys, I don't know what we'll do tomorrow. Well, you know what we'll do tonight. So, anyhow, guys, thanks for tuning in. again, you guys really, really made this interesting and entertaining, and I appreciate that. So with that, guys, good night.